thanks to Safety Wing for sponsoring this episode. We're going to talk more about Safety Wing and why we love it here in a minute. But welcome to What No One Tells You. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sarah.
And today's episode is so fun because we just got back from the state of Iowa.
Which may not sound super exciting. Trust me, it was so much fun.
I mean, there was a lot of corn, a lot of soybean.
A lot of pie, a lot of ice cream.
A lot of bicyclists. And we just got finished doing RAGBRAI.
RAGBRAI. This has been on our bucket list for over a decade. I know RAGBRAI has grown in popularity. There have been a lot of YouTubers who have done it in the last few years, and it's definitely grown in popularity because of that. But RAGBRAI, I don't want to say we're original, but like we want to do this for a long time. So I want to go ahead and explain what RAGBRAI is. RAGBRAI stands for Register's Annual Great Bike Ride Across Iowa. RAGBRAI.
I'm so impressed you remembered that.
So the Register is the Iowan paper, and it sort of started, this is like the long story very short, but 51 years ago, this was the 51st RAGBRAI event. 51 years ago, some journalists were trying to find an excuse to bike across Iowa, and they said, well, we'll make a story in the newspaper about it. So they announced to people that they were going to ride their bikes across Iowa. They had about 250 people show up, and today, on average, there's about 20,000 people from all over the world who show up to ride their bikes across the state of Iowa. Last year was the 50th anniversary, and we heard they had 50,000 people a few days.
Yeah.
It's a big event.
It's a big event. And like you hear 20,000 people and you're like, oh, that's a big number, but you don't understand it until you see it. It is a lot of people.
It is a lot of spandex happening.
A lot of spandex.
Okay, so Chris and I, for a lot of people who may not know this, we mention it from time to time, partially because we love how we met, but also it just makes us sound way cooler and way more athletic than we actually are. But we met biking across America from Seattle to New York. We have both biked across America twice. I've done the northern route from Seattle to New York twice. Chris has done that route once and also has done San Diego to DC, right? Or Virginia Beach.
Virginia Beach.
Same thing.
Tomato, tomato.
Tomato, tomato. So I know we don't look like people who should be gallivanting so openly in spandex, nor do we look that athletic, but we have done that twice. We love cycling. We love cycling for the community. It's for the adventure, for seeing small towns across America and just a slower pace. So we have a history of cycling. A lot of people who do RAGBRAI don't have a history of cycling. I do think it requires some training. We know people who... We've heard of people who rent a bike and have never been on a road bike and show up to RAGBRAI. Let me tell you, they may smile, but it is not going to be fun.
They are chafed for days. So just let it be known. And
I'm laughing because like even as us who have cycled a lot, like if you don't get in the saddle ahead of time, you're not going to enjoy it.
No, you're not. And before we really dive into all the nitty gritty of this episode about RAGBRAI, because we're going to talk about all the logistics, we're going to talk about what it was like to ride with 20,000 people, go into these small towns, all of this. You're going to hear about it. First, I just wanted to say real quickly, if you could just do us a favor and please like, subscribe, leave a nice comment, say, Sarah, your dress is so pretty today. Something.
Okay.
That would be amazing.
We need to go through our analytics and see what the retention rate is of people skipping over or dropping off from Crystal's. Look, please like, comment, and subscribe.
I mean, but like we're so close on YouTube to like we have a goal. Like just your support would help so much.
We do appreciate you all showing up. Okay. Let's just go ahead and say one thing. RAGBRAI is not a race. It is a party on two wheels for 7 days or 8 days technically.
And so the funny thing about RAGBRAI, it's across the state of Iowa, but the route changes every year.
Every year. Some towns will get repeats. I mean, there's definitely places that get it every few years. Some people have never had it. Actually, some of the towns we went through in 51 years, they've never had RAGBRAI come through their town.
Never.
Others had it, 5 years ago or something. They try to mix up the route, but it's a big boost in the economy. It is not a race. It is not for professional cyclists. It is not for avid cyclists. It is for anyone who can ride a bike. It doesn't even have to be a bike. It could technically be a tricycle or a unicycle. We've seen both.
We saw rollerblades.
But the idea is that this is for fun. We saw kids on tandems with their parents as young as 3. I heard someone was riding a bike at 3 years old. And it is not, if you're not a cyclist, that's okay. Keep listening, because I think you're going to, by the end of this episode, say, that sounds like a lot of fun. I don't have a bike, but I'm going to go get a bike or rent a bike and start training for it now, because I want to do it in 2025.
Oh yeah, it's so much fun. And so
fun.
The people of Iowa are so nice that it's sort of like this known thing that people will open up their front lawns, they'll open up their doors, they'll have like, it's just this, think of it as this big party of people on bikes, and then people are like, come into my house and eat pie, or like, it's
I know
awesome.
this sounds crazy, but it's true. Okay, let's explain to people, because we do have a lot of international people who listen to the podcast. What is Iowa?
Oh, Iowa. What is Iowa?
Americans know Iowa, but I think
Iowa.
even their perception's wrong.
Iowa is an 85% agriculture state, meaning the whole state is pretty much corn, soybean, and
They export a lot of pig too, like
and
pork.
pig. Yeah, so it's a lot of farmland, a lot of beautiful farmland. I mean, there are people that live there, but it's definitely a lot more corn, more than people.
Yeah, it's a very agricultural state. People in the U.S., I think they think of Iowa as being middle of nowhere, nothing to do, flat state, corn.
Yeah.
I think but it's not entirely flat. In fact, people on the ride were wearing jerseys, like bike shirts that said, Iowa, flat as a waffle, because you know the saying that's like, oh, it's flat as a pancake. Iowa's not flat. Just like most of the Midwest, people think South Dakota's flat or Minnesota's flat, but it actually rolls a good bit, kind of like a waffle. So it's this beautiful, rolling, lush green state. Actually, it was extra green this year because they've had a ton of rain. So it was this beautifully lush green state, corn, soybeans, and some of the friendliest people on earth. We're from the deep South. I grew up in Tennessee, Georgia, and Chris is from Kentucky, and the South has a reputation for like Southern hospitality, but
Bless your heart,
y'all. But I don't think that the South has anything on Midwest nice.
No, the people in the Midwest are so nice. Now, sometimes they can be a little passive aggressive.
Oh, they're so passive aggressive.
You're like, where are you being nice to me, or are you just being passive? Yeah, so,
It's true.
But they're so nice and just hospitable. Like literally, we will have people we had this little old man come out. There was a thunderstorm behind us while we were riding, and he was like, it's okay, come to my house, you can sleep here, it's totally fine.
He was so cute. He was probably 90 years old. He'll never hear this podcast. He and his wife had the cutest little house in the middle of nowhere, Iowa. And Chris and I were leaving the grocery store. We had just washed our laundry at the laundromat next door, and we got everybody's phones started going, like there was a giant thunderstorm with lots of wind gusts coming in. And he said, if you need somewhere to stay, you can stay in my yard. My yard is open to you. Yeah. And he was just so sweet. That's just Iowa in a nutshell.
So if you've ever seen the movie Field of Dreams,
which I have not, or,
if you like a recent movie, I don't know if it takes place in Iowa, but it's pretty much the same as Twisters, it's like Tornado Alley. It looks like that, right? It's a lot of corn. It's a lot of, Field of Dreams, he built a baseball field. And all the old spirits of baseball players play on his field.
I didn't know that. I've never seen it.
Would you watch that?
I don't know. I'm not much of a baseball person, but I like a good sports movie. Iowa, maybe another visual people have of Iowa is American Gothic.
Oh, yeah, American Gothic.
Which we'll talk more about that in a minute. But if you don't know what American Gothic is, you probably do, and you just may not know the name. American Gothic is that famous picture of the old couple, the man's holding the pitchfork with glasses on, and the woman's looking at him, and they're sitting in front of a White House. It's like that. There's so many parodies of this photo now, more than the Mona Lisa, apparently. But anyway, that house is in Iowa. We actually went to that house on our route.
Just think, when you think of Iowa, think America.
It is like any town USA.
Any town USA.
I mean, homemade ice cream, fireworks on the 4th of July. Actually, there were fireworks a lot of nights on our trip.
Yeah, they were just so excited. And so RAGBRAI, when RAGBRAI comes through these towns, it is a big deal. Like it's a big boost to the economy. It's just, people celebrate it and they're proud of it. They're like, well, our town is hosting this year and we're going to do our best to show them a good time.
Some towns get to host it more than others. Some of the towns we went to had 100 people and they had never had the RAGBRAI route come through their town. Others have it, every 5 or 7 years because they're a bigger city and it's an easier place to end, like Burlington where we ended. I think they have it pretty often because they're on the Mississippi and it's logistically easy. But no matter what, RAGBRAI puts Iowa on the map internationally every year, and it is a huge boost to the economy. It gets international attention, and it is just this destination for 1 week every year. And anybody from the US and probably international too, they don't think Iowa, vacation destination. But for 1 week every year, it is the most fun place in the USA.
It really is. Yeah, and we met people from Norway.
These people came, before we say where they are from, these people came all the way from these countries for RAGBRAI
For
only.
RAGBRAI. Like, these people flew here. We're like, you know what you're doing, right?
You flew to Iowa?
Yeah, and they're like, oh yeah.
Australia?
Yeah,
You know
we've
how long that
wanted
flight
to do
is?
this for years.
So-
It's long.
Australia, New Zealand, England, Norway, the Netherlands. I think there were Germans. I mean, there's like people, like I kid you not, there are people from all over. I mean, if you're coming from down under in Australia or New Zealand, like it must be a good time. That's a long flight.
And that's, I mean, we drove from Tennessee, like, and we were by no means the furthest state from, I mean, people were from California, people all over the U.S.
All over. I mean, I'd say majority for sure. I'd say 75, 80% of the people are probably from Iowa or, you know, within like a 4-hour radius of wherever. A lot of Nebraskans, Iowans, Illinois, what would you call a person from Illinois? Illinoisan, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
Anyway, a lot of Midwesters, a lot of people come out and do this ride. It's tradition. I met somebody in the 51 years they've done RAGBRAI. He was doing his 50th ride. So he's missed 1 year in 51 years. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Yeah.
It's a tradition. So RAGBRAI is a party on wheels. It is so much fun. It's very family friendly. It's not just like one big drinking party. I mean, there's certainly beer accessible and other things, but it is mostly a family friendly good time.
Yeah. So when we realized that we were going to be here in the States for it, we quickly bought our tickets.
Yeah, tickets actually go on sale in, I want to say November. Don't quote me on that. You'll have to Google it. But they go on sale long in advance, and then they announce the route, I think, March of that year. So like a couple months before the event, like it's always held the end of July. They announce the route in March, but tickets go on sale before then. Yeah, we bought our tickets 10 days before we had to be at the start line.
So
we bought them secondhand off of somebody.
we don't recommend that in case you haven't trained for it, which, I mean, thankfully we have been cycling a little bit, but
Not much.
Not much.
It was pretty spontaneous. This is just the first year that everything's come together. It's weirdly, we weren't supposed to be home, but we happened to be home in July. Our bikes happened to be, you know, tuned up, ready to go. And we didn't have anything that entire week planned. So we finally got to do RAGBRAI.
Oh, it's so fun. Yeah. So yeah, we purchased our tickets, and then
How much did we pay for our tickets?
was it $100 each?
$100 each. And they go for, I think it was $275 each if you bought them new. But we got ours.
And that was for the whole week.
For the whole week, for a week ride.
Because you can purchase per day.
Yeah, and I want to say it's like $50 or $70 per day, but we got ours for $100 for the entire week because we bought them secondhand, like 10 days before. People were just trying to get rid of them. You know, there's people who they may have gotten sick or torn a ligament in their knee. I mean, there's like all these reasons why people suddenly can't do RAGBRAI. And there's actually a Facebook group that you can go and buy them secondhand starting June 1st every year. You can go out there and say, hey, I need 2 week-long passes and a car pass or something like that. And you can buy them. So that's how we did it.
Yep.
Because it was sold out. Like we had already missed the cutoff for the original sign up.
Yeah. And so let's go ahead and talk about that. We bought a car pass for our car.
Let's talk logistics.
Yeah, we need to talk about logistics because we drove from Tennessee. The end city for RAGBRAI this year was in Burlington, Iowa. So we drove to Burlington, Iowa. We dropped our car off at a high school.
It was a Catholic high school in Iowa.
Yeah. So we dropped our car off at a high school in Iowa. And then we got a rental car, drove across the state to the starting line. So we were going to ride our bikes to our car.
Yeah. Logistically, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. But personally, we were thinking ahead. We didn't want to finish biking across the state of Iowa with a bunch of sweaty people and then have to get on a charter bus and ride 5 hours across the state with everybody stinky and sweaty and tired.
No, thank you. Plus, it was really expensive for a charter bus.
Yeah, we could have left our car at the starting line or the finish line. We chose to buy the pass for the finish line. It was $75 to leave it in a fenced parking lot at the high school for the entire week, which wasn't bad. $75 for that. I think the charter to go from the finish line back to the starting line or vice versa was about almost $200 a person. So between the rental car and parking our car for an entire week, we paid $180. That's still less than one person on a charter bus.
Yeah. And you don't have to smell anybody.
You don't have to smell anybody. And your car's there. Like, you don't have to go all the way back across the state and then drive even more hours when you're already tired. So that logistically, that's how we did it. There's a lot of different ways you can do it, but we recommend leaving it at the finish line if you can.
And there is one thing that we also recommend for this, and also RAGBRAI recommends that you get, is travel insurance.
Travel insurance.
Which brings us to our favorite travel insurance that we use, Safety Wing.
So Safety Wing is sponsoring this episode. Thank you, Safety Wing. This was a really natural integration for us because we are Safety Wing users. We have been for a long time. We always purchase the insurance when we start traveling. Safety Wing is designed for remote workers, digital nomads, anybody who's traveling around the world extensively. This is insurance that can help you out in a pinch. It's one of those things like you don't need it till you need it.
Yeah. But the cool thing is you can start and stop it. So you don't have to like continually pay for it. Like you go on a trip, you pay for it. And then if you come back home, you're like, I don't need it. You can pause it. And then your account's all the same.
And they have a new Nomad insurance plan that actually has a $0 deductible. So even if it's a very small thing that you're filing a claim for, you don't have to worry about that. Travel insurance is a must, especially for something like RAGBRAI where things can go real wrong real fast. I mean, we both witnessed a few bad wrecks. We heard one girl say that we witnessed this wreck, and then we later heard that the wreck was so bad that she's having to have multiple surgeries for multiple bone injuries.
Yeah, and like she was in good spirits, but it was definitely like it was scary seeing it.
And it's going to be expensive. But if you have things like travel insurance that are designed for that kind of accident, you're going to save thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So
there's no pre-approval. It takes 5 minutes to sign up. There's a link down in our show notes if you want to know more about Safety Wing. We highly, highly recommend them if you're traveling out of the country or if you're biking across Iowa.
Yeah, it covers things like lost luggage, delay of travel, which crazy. We were actually traveling during that massive IT outage in the travel industry.
That's right.
Yeah, we actually heard people from England. They had traveled over from England on a plane. Their plane lost their luggage because of the IT outage. Everything was just a nightmare. They had to like borrow a bike at the start line from somebody else. It's just like if you lose your luggage, Safety Wing will help you figure that out and pay for you. So you want things like travel insurance, not just for the medical reasons, but to protect you when things go wrong that you don't expect.
Yeah. So make sure you click the link down below to learn more. And thank you, Safety Wing, for sponsoring this episode.
So let's talk about training.
Yeah, you mentioned that we bought these tickets 10 days beforehand. So
yeah, for most people, I would not recommend that. Not that we're like avid cyclists. I mean, if anybody should not be wearing spandex for days on end, it's probably us. We do not have bodies for spandex.
You speak for yourself. My butt looks good in spandex.
Chris likes to joke that's why I fell in love with him biking across America.
I have a pancake butt. I have no butt.
He doesn't have a butt.
It's not there.
It's not. Anyway, that's probably way too much information for these people. But we did buy our tickets 10 days before. But let's preface this and say that we have extensive cycling experience. We're not professionals by any means, but we have spent many a day on end biking. When we biked across America, it was 6 days a week with an average of 85 to 90 miles a day for 8 weeks. And we've spent long days in the saddle. And the hardest part about distance running or cycling is the mental aspect.
Yeah.
Yes, you need to train and be in shape, but mentally it is pretty taxing to make yourself sit on that tiny little bike seat for hours on end.
Yeah. And, train. Like at least just train. Ride. Get comfortable on a bike. Make sure that your seat feels comfortable. Make sure that you know like how to use the gears and how to ride and the proper hand signals for turning. Because you're going to be riding with 20,000 people. You have to communicate with people on, like, hey, I'm turning right, I'm turning left, slowing, like there's a car coming up and car coming back or whatever.
You learn it pretty quickly. In fact, there's at the expo, the day before the riding starts, like you arrive in Iowa at the start town. That first day, there's actually an expo and there's a new riders. They call them RAGBRAI virgins, like it's your first time doing RAGBRAI. But there's a session that's an hour long and they go through some of the basics, like, the hand signals, the things to say. But this is all stuff you can easily learn on a YouTube video ahead of time.
Yeah.
Just to take one more thing. But it's, basic things because communicating on the road is so important. It keeps you safe and those around you safe.
Yeah. And I will say where you live depends on the amount of training. I mean, everybody should train, get used to it, get used to your body. But, people coming from Florida or, Michigan may have a harder time with Iowa because Florida is a little flatter.
Flat, but they'll be ready for the heat and humidity.
That's true.
Whereas people from Colorado may be ready for the hills, but they have no experience when it comes to humidity.
So yeah, just train, just get on the bike and ride, have fun.
Yeah, we've heard of people who have never been on a road bike until they get there. And then they rent a road bike at the start line. You can rent bikes and have them meet you on the road. That's not awful if you've ridden a bike before, ridden a road bike extensively. I would say if you can't bring your own bike, that's totally fine. You can rent. It's going to be more expensive. But don't show up at the start line and get on a road bike for the first time, because trust me, your butt will develop calluses, and you want to have those calluses. If people are riding a bike for the first time at the start of RAGBRAI, trust me, they're smiling, but they're not having as much fun as they could.
They're not having much fun.
I mean, we know that from experience. Like we've ridden extensively, and even us, like you just have to get your butt in that saddle. You really do. So let's talk about the packing aspect of RAGBRAI, but also how there's 1,000 different ways you can go about traveling from town to town with RAGBRAI, because they kind of play a part together.
So, I mean, first and easy way, you could pack everything onto your bike and carry everything with you.
Some people do that. Some people like that because it gives you a lot of freedom about where you camp at night. You could literally, well, not literally, but you could almost throw a tent in just about any place in town and nobody's going to tell you no.
I think you could, actually.
Well, besides maybe private property, but even then some people open up their yard to you. But as a general rule, you have everything with you on your bike if you're self-supported, but that means the bike's heavier. That means extra gear. You've definitely invested. Those are really for more of the experienced people. Most people do what we did, and that is sort of going with the main camp. You are going with the main RAGBRAI group. So when you purchase your RAGBRAI ticket, it actually includes camping in the main campground every night, which has porta potties. They have showers. The showers are usually paid for. You have to pay an extra
for the showers.
$8 a day for a shower. If you want it, it's optional. Some people choose not to shower.
Some people choose to save those $8 and make us pay for it other ways.
Yeah. I was like, what do you mean? Oh, yeah, no, we smelled them when we were downwind. But with the main RAGBRAI camp, usually you're camping somewhere like a fairground or a high school or something like that. It's just this big field. They provide porta potties and showers. Pretty basic, but the main thing that comes with it, it's really important to note, is that there's 2 transfer truck trailers that go from town to town. And from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. every morning, if you're camping in the main campground, you have to drop your luggage off at those transfer trucks. It's free in your ticket price, and they will move your luggage for you from spot to spot. So in the morning, you drop off your luggage, and they carry it to the next town for you, unload it, and then you pick it up in the baggage claim area.
Yeah, which is super nice. Like
super nice.
Yeah, you don't have to think about it. You just have to like battle the other people getting on the trailer, which wasn't bad at all.
We never really stood in line at all.
No, it was
I think
great.
the first morning we maybe had to wait. There was 3 people in front of us when they were weighing their luggage.
Yeah, so they weigh your luggage the first time, and it has to be under 50 pounds.
And there's a few other restrictions about luggage. Like we have these Patagonia duffels. We travel with them a lot with the truck because they pack really small. Versus like, a hard-sided case. For RAGBRAI, it cannot be a hard-sided suitcase. It cannot be a backpack that has a frame, like a hard frame. They want it to just be like a duffel bag. I think it's just so you can just throw them in the truck and it's easy to stack, right? Yeah, and it keeps it lighter weight. But yeah, all luggage has to be under 50 pounds. That includes your tent, your sleeping bag, your sleeping pad, your gear, whatever you have in that, it has to be under 50 pounds and they will weigh it. But another way to travel is like in an RV. This is kind of, if we do it again, we want to do the whole camping in a tent experience one time. But I think if we were to do it again, we would probably bring like a camper van or a truck camper or something.
Yeah.
And then if we were in a group, maybe take one day off of riding each and take turns driving that truck or van or whatever, because we would have a fridge with healthier food. We would have coffee in the morning, which I missed my morning coffee so much. We would have free showers. We'd have a place to plug in our electrical items like our camera batteries.
Yeah.
Having some sort of RV would make it a lot easier. And then you're not battling like the weight of the suitcase. Really, it wasn't a problem. We were underweight on our stuff.
No, it was fine. But I think having your own RV or having your own driver would be great. Other people also, besides that, will pay for charter services, which can get kind of expensive, but it depends on like the experience you want. So you could pay to be a part of this charter service that provides all the electricity, all the showers, everything for you.
Meals, sometimes drinks. I mean, there's all these different varieties. So do your research ahead of time, depending on what experience you want. You can pay as much or as little as you want. We personally really enjoyed doing the main campground. I think it was a fun experience.
Yeah.
But there are perks to traveling in like an RV or a group. Mainly for the RV, I'm thinking next year, you could probably get more sleep because when you're sleeping in a tent and most people don't want to go to bed at your time, in an RV you can get more sleep because like we like to get up and do early morning rides. I love the morning time ride. We'll talk about this more in a minute, but when you're waking up at 4 a.m. every day and you go to bed whenever your neighbor goes to bed, which is probably like 10 o'clock, you're just not getting enough sleep for recovery.
No. And that was probably the hardest thing about RAGBRAI. Wasn't the actual ride, it was the sleeping.
Because you can ride for miles, but if you're not recovering properly at night, it does wear on you.
And I will say, like being in a tent, we were, I mean, as soon as our head hit the pillow, we were both out after riding the whole day. I mean, it was so fun, but so exhausting, you know, and so, but you still wake up at 3:30, 4 in the morning. You're just not recovering as well.
Yeah, your body needs that sleep. So I think that's a perk of doing an RV, but that's all your call. If you're the kind of person who likes to live on a prayer and get 4 hours of sleep and party hard, you go for it. I will not be with you.
No.
All right, so let's talk about packing.
Yeah.
Now that we've covered, there's a lot of different ways you can go about packing and what that you may actually need in packing. Let's talk about like what we packed because we were in the main campground.
Yeah, so because we're in the main campground, we packed our tent, obviously, sleeping bags, sleeping pads. We packed all our toiletries, and then we have our bicycles, and then plus the clothes that we're wearing.
Yeah.
Oh, and the most important thing for anybody that's cycling, we packed butt butter.
Butt butter. If you don't know what chamois butter is, it is. How would you? It is just protection for your butt, so you don't get saddle sores. You don't chafe.
You don't chafe. Like
as much.
It'll make it buttery smooth down there.
I don't know. It does help significantly. You don't have to have it. I actually did not, fun fact, I did not use it once on my first bike trip across America until week 7 of 8. I carried it with me. I was like, I don't know what this is.
And then week 7, you just like what?
It was really hard climbing actually. Once you started crossing the mountains and the Appalachians, like somebody turned me onto it. Like, you need to use this. Like, oh my word, I cannot believe this has been sitting in my bin this entire time.
And Sarah likes the Euro version, which means it has a little tingle into it.
It's got a little menthol in it. So if you're already chafed down there and you put a little bit on, it sort of cools you off.
Yeah.
Chris hates it. I think it's great.
We were buying some extra from one of the bike tents at RAGBRAI, and the guy was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know you're buying the Euro version, right?
The Europeans like to live on the edge. They like a little spice. Anyway, okay, enough about butt butter. Let's talk about packing. So we packed our camping gear. That each goes in our duffels. And we sort of did, one duffel was like all cycling gear and camping gear. And then the other duffel was clothes and shoes and toiletries. That's sort of how we divided the weight up. We're fortunate to where we've invested in camping gear over the years. So ours was pretty lightweight and it packed pretty small. But if you don't have good camping gear, either buy it, which you really don't have to buy it for this one trip, or just plan ahead and make sure everything fits in your bag. It shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. So, and then, make sure you have biking shorts and, good working out clothes if you don't want to purchase biking clothing.
It's expensive. Cycling can be expensive.
Yeah. Just like any hobby, it can get up there pretty fast.
Cycling especially is like one of those sports that it can be intimidating because it's so expensive when you look at it. Like, bikes are thousands of dollars and the cycling shorts alone start at like $70 a pair. There's different ways to save money. Like, we've bought from like Nash Bar. That's a website for cycling. You buy cheap stuff out there that sort of closeout stuff. Maybe they have odds and ends sizes. Buying on REI's like 20% off sales.
Yeah.
That's a great way to save money on some expensive stuff.
Even their used section.
Yeah, buying some stuff on used sections would be great.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would buy a used pair of bike shorts. That seems very personal, but I would buy like used.
It's like buying underwear.
Yeah, I don't think I would, but like used bike lights or a duffel bag. Like, that's great stuff to buy used.
Yeah.
So we did pack our camera gear too.
Yeah, we packed our camera gear. And so we bought this really cool bag from Chrome, which is a bike company that it worked perfect for our bike. It was awesome. So we fit the big camera, our big Sony camera we put in there. And then we also had a GoPro that we used.
And I used my phone too. So we sort of like filmed on a lot of different things. I'm going to have a complete packing list on the blog. So if you're interested in knowing exactly what we packed for your own RAGBRAI adventure, we can link to that down below. But we could spend a long time just talking about packing for RAGBRAI.
And I will say, one thing we did splurge on this year, and it was a hit, was banana jerseys.
Oh, that's such a fun topic to talk about, like what people wear and dress up wearing for the ride. You'll see people and they'll have like team. What were some of the teams? Team Old Farts, remember them?
Team
they were
Old
funny. It was like
Farts,
all retirees. There's a team. It's like they call themselves the Pie Hunters, and so they on top of their helmets they had made these triangle like boxes.
I wanted to join them.
I know, and they decorated it like different pieces of pie, and like somebody was like peach pie or blueberry pie, and that was like they were Team Pie because like pie is such a thing in Iowa.
It is.
It's just. I don't know why, but like the little church ladies are all out there selling pie. And so a lot of people love riding RAGBRAI because they can eat as much pie as they want.
Yep. So, but we bought these banana jerseys.
We thought they were funny.
And people, for whatever reason, thought they were awesome. And if I hear another banana joke, I will lose my mind.
If one more person bikes up next to me and goes, I'm going bananas for your shirt, I'm going to kick them off their bike. No. It was funny. I loved those shirts. And people asked, why bananas? For me, I thought they were fun, but also bananas are kind of my power food when biking. I love bananas and peanut butter.
Plus it has that yellow, which, if you know anything about our branding, we like yellow.
It has yellow. It's just happy. Yeah. But anyway, I'd say when you're packing, considering having fun with your outfits and just, if you're going with others, make it a team thing. Come up with a theme, even if it's just for a day or two.
Yeah.
Just that's part of the fun. Like there's something to look at every mile of the trip, whether it's little kids selling lemonade on the side of the road or somebody biking past you in a costume. I mean, there's just something the whole time and people just sort of lean into it.
Okay. Can we just go ahead and get into the day by day?
Yeah. Okay, we're talking a lot about it.
Yeah. So we've talked about the nitty gritty details, whatever you need to learn about RAGBRAI, but let's talk about the actual experience because that's where the beauty of this ride comes in. So every day, we woke up early. We chose to wake up early because we like riding early when it's cooler. It's beautiful outside.
Beautiful in the morning. Before we even get to the date, let's say there's 8 days of RAGBRAI.
Oh yeah, 8 days.
8 days of RAGBRAI. The first day is an expo day, and they have sessions for new riders. They have sessions for support drivers, and then they have all these different vendors. So if you forget something, you can buy it there. If you want to just check out new products. There's live music. It's just like the whole expo day.
Yeah.
Then day 2 is the first day of riding. So there's 7 days of cycling.
So day 1, we woke up and it was a very foggy morning.
Oh, so pretty.
It was so pretty. Iowa, you can say all day long Iowa is pretty, but it's beautiful in the morning. They have the Midwest has some of the most stunning sunrises and sunsets.
It's true. So the first day was, every year differs in the miles, but our ride, since we had the hilliest ride ever on RAGBRAI, they gave us 2 easy days leading up to that third day, which was the hardest ride ever, apparently. So we did like 45 miles each of those days. So Chris and I, we woke up early, but not crazy early. And you can knock out the miles pretty fast if you want to, but if you're doing a RAGBRAI right, in our opinion, you're stopping in those towns. You're taking advantage of all the different fun things along the way, of talking to the locals, of getting that morning sunrise picture. Like you're not in a race. You're there to have fun and experience
it. It's about the experience. And so the very first town that we rode into was Silver City. And there was this little vendor. They're there every year and every day. It's called Chris's Cakes.
Yes.
And essentially it's pancakes, right?
Pancake, sausage, and orange juice and coffee.
Yes. And you can pay $12. It's all you can eat for, all the pancakes you want. But the cool thing is that they flip the pancakes up in the air and you catch them on your plate.
On your plate?
On your plate.
Why'd you say it like that? On your plate. Yeah. Except for people like me, missed it until the third or fourth try.
But people were cheering Sarah when she finally caught it. They're like, you did it. And she was too embarrassed to continue there for more pancakes.
I was. Anyway, every day has something different, but there will be those vendors every day that are consistent. Like Chris's Cakes. There's Mr. Pork Chop. There's Beaker's Homemade Ice Cream.
Yeah, there's a lot of Amish communities out there who give ice cream or pie, whatever food.
They don't give. They sell.
You pay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about RAGBRAI. When you go into these towns, like we said, it's a big boost to their economy. Mm-hmm. And these families will set up on the side of the road. So you'll see people selling water bottles or pie or whatever else. And they could be raised, like we went into this Amish community and they were raising money for a new school. We also passed people who were raising money to send their kid to college or to pay. I saw somebody, they were trying to pay their dad back for their braces.
Oh, no, I didn't see that one. That's really sweet. Yeah, so it's fun. Like one thing you have to pack for RAGBRAI is cash, and make sure you have lots of $1 bills. Just lots of $1 bills. You'll have like $1 pickle shots. If you don't know, pickles are like a real thing when cycling because it's like high in sodium. So if you're having cramps, you just do a shot of pickle juice and it fixes it usually.
Usually. It's nasty. I hate pickles.
Kids are selling homemade lemonade for $1 and it's so sweet. I mean, you want to bring lots of cash and plan on spending, I think it's around $40 a person a day. And that's if you're eating out a good bit.
Yeah. And they provide food trucks in the big towns or the big stops, so they'll have like one stop throughout the day. That's like the main stop. And then you'll have your end day. But the little towns along the way, I mean, you never know what you're going to get.
You never know what you're going to get. So there were a few things we knew we had to try. Like, there's the regulars that are there every day. There's the craft beer tent. There's Mr. Pork Chop, which is homemade smoked pork chops. They make it over corn cobs, burning corn cob smoke or something. It's so good. I'm not even a pork chop person.
And honestly, like thinking like on a hot day, I'm like, I don't know if I want just a pork chop,
Yeah.
But it was pretty darn good.
I think it was the saltiness of it kind of hit the spot on a long cycling day. But there's like all these classic things that are throughout the route every single day that people like to have. But then there's also, each town has their own special little individual vendors. Like we purchased cinnamon rolls from a church, and like those are the things that specifically give back to those little communities. So we try to shop and support local when we could, go to the local coffee shop or, go to the local little kids lemonade stand or to buy Gatorade or something like that from them. Because that does really pour straight back into their economy.
And it's not just food. I mean, these towns, they'll have live music there. There'll be games. We saw this one game where you're taking cast iron skillets and you're throwing it at like dummies.
Like scarecrows or something?
Yeah.
But it was a cast iron skillet throwing contest. It was pretty impressive to watch.
It was really impressive to watch.
Oh, and Griswold. So one of the towns we passed through this year was named Griswold, Iowa. And they leaned in so hard to National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And I loved it. It was so fun.
We got our photo taken with a guy dressed up like Cousin Eddie, and these people had spent the time to create the Jell-O mold from the movie
with the cat food in it.
And Sarah, yes, it was a prop, but Sarah thought that it was a little harder or like plasticky. But
I didn't think it was real.
It was a real Jell-O mold, and she like grabbed that thing, and he flipped his lid for a second. He
thought I was going to drop that Jell-O. His wife worked so hard overnight making, but it was so fun. Then they had Cousin Eddie's RV, and you could sign Cousin Eddie's RV. Oh, and that's something fun that every town had.
Yeah.
It was like a poster or something to sign. So as you pass through these towns, you can sign like, "Thanks so much, Griswold. Love Chris and Sara." Like, and so for that town, it was Cousin Eddie's RV we got to sign.
Yeah. It was you just roll into these towns, and they're typically around every 10 miles.
About every 10 to 15 miles.
Yeah, and it's just fun. Like it's just a fun stop, and you fill up water. We went inside some person's house who opened up their house to the entire community, and you could use the restroom, or they're making you.
She had made homemade pulled pork sandwiches or pulled chicken barbecue sandwiches and like homemade thumbprint cookies. Oh, it's so fun.
It is so fun. And then some of these people will set up water slides
goodness.
Slip and slides, or they'll have like a cooling station you can ride your bike through. And it is just, we say fun a lot, but it is a lot of fun.
It's just a party. Like Chris said, every 10 or 15 miles there's another town. And like, yes, people are inviting you into their house and providing free food, but you're going to want to make sure you have like ones on hand and stuff, because a lot of people have donation buckets. Like you can pay it forward and say, "Thank you so much for letting me use your real restroom. I'm tired of sitting in a porta potty." So like little things like that, you want to thank the community for having you in there. Like they're opening up their homes and their doors and their towns to have you there. Say thank you. But there was a slip and slide one day. It was kind of, our weather wasn't as hot as some years, but it finally got hot enough in the afternoon a couple of days where we wanted to do the slip and slide.
Yeah.
And so we did a slip and slide. We looked like such old people doing it because we didn't run hard enough. I was worried about breaking a bone. I was like, oh, this is old life.
We have footage of Sarah just
plopping.
She plopped down on that slip and slide.
But then Chris made fun of me, and then he went out there and did the exact same thing. He's like, "You did that so lame," and then he went out and did the exact same thing.
I looked cooler plopping.
I don't know.
I looked really cool plopping.
Oh, and then there's the one town who had, you gotta remember, this is like farmland, but this one town had made a swimming pool. So for the structure of the swimming pool, they used stacked hay bales. And then for the lining of the pool, they use a massive tarp. And then they put water in it. So it's like this 1.5 to 2 foot deep swimming pool made of hay bales and tarps. And they put like little floaties in there. And it felt so good. I just sat there on one of the floats and watched people cycle by And you have to slow down and enjoy those moments of RAGBRAI. The things that people set up, like the little side street or the little side stops are what make RAGBRAI. There's so many photo ops and moments from memories.
Yeah, it is such a fun, just low key, like, hey, let's ride our bikes and get to know this community.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
One of the towns, we talked about it briefly, was the American Gothic town.
Oh, yeah.
So the American Gothic, is the famous picture of the husband and wife, and they're standing in front of their white farmhouse, and he's holding the pitchfork. And anyway, that's actually in Iowa, and the real house is still there today. But we got our picture in front of the house. In my opinion, we did a pretty good...
I think we reenacted it pretty well.
We did a pretty good parody of it. And then in the main town, like when you're biking through, they had like those little photo ops with the different cutout faces, but they had themed the different American Gothics. So somebody had made like a Star Wars take of American Gothic. And so you could stick your face in there and get like the Star Wars version and then the RAGBRAI version. It's just, all these towns go all in on welcoming people in and providing like an experience for them.
They do. So if you're riding along the route, it's not just stopping in the towns, it's also the people that you meet while you're riding bicycles going through. And the Air Force is there. So if you ever fall into a problem, the Air Force actually kind of takes care of you a little bit.
It's really cool. It's a tradition, I guess, where the Air Force, I heard 139 cyclists out there this year. So they spread them out pretty evenly throughout the cyclists. But they're carrying extra tubes and air pumps or CO cartridges or whatever. And the idea is that they're there to aid you if you need help. Like, you should carry your own, tube in case you get a flat, that kind of thing. But like, we witnessed a really bad wreck. Well, the Air Force people are the ones who like blocked off the road, and we're telling people like, go around, slow down.
Yeah.
Or, if you get a flat on the side of the road and you don't have something, they pull over and make sure you're okay. Like if you fall, they're there to help.
Yeah.
And that's just like this nice service these Air Force people provide. It's really cool.
Super cool. And one day while I was riding, I actually fell and I broke my bike.
Let's talk about that fall for a second,
Let's
Chris.
talk about that
It
fall.
wasn't an epic fall.
No, it was
Most bike ride falls are never epic.
No, I just kind of teeter-tottered and I just fell. Like, it was just not a good start to the day. And then I got up, and I think when I fell, I bent my derailleur a little bit on the back of the bike. And so I'm going up this hill and I'm switched the gear, and then all of a sudden I hear this snap pop. And my cable and my derailleur and my chain, all of it just snaps and breaks, which was not a good day. So, and at that moment, I was around 3 or 4 miles from town.
The next town.
Yeah, from the next stop. And so I had to walk my bike up a hill. But thankfully, this gentleman across the street saw me who owned land there. And he said, "Hey, do you need a ride?" I said, "Absolutely." And I was able to like jump into his little Gator golf cart thing, whatever it is.
4-wheel drive.
Yeah. And he drove me to town, and it ended up being a really fun adventure, but that day was not a great day for me.
No, and I was nowhere to be seen because so Chris fell, and then we caught up to each other like at a stop, and then his bike broke. So after he fell, someone was a little bit grouchy, and I said, "I'm just gonna let you work this out mentally. I'm gonna bike ahead and leave you for this next 10 miles. Good luck. I'll see you in the next town," just to like give him his space because he was bringing down my happiness.
I was grouchy not only because I fell, but I fell on my banana.
And he was wearing his banana jersey.
I had a banana in my back pocket, and it exploded all inside my
He had
jersey.
squished banana all over his banana shirt. It was so funny to us. But I left him out there, so I was up in the town already when his bike broke, and I felt so bad. Looking back, I should have stayed with you. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. So, Sarah, would you do RAGBRAI again?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. It was so much fun. It's not a race. I want to like communicate that and make that abundantly clear because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I have to be an athlete to do that." No, you don't. There's e-bikes out there. There's tricycles. There's tandem bikes. We saw a 4-person bike. I mean, there's just everything in the world out there. And it's just, the idea is to have fun. And even if you don't want to commit to the whole week, you can buy a day or 2 pass. Like, you don't have to commit to all 7 days of cycling. If you're like, that's really more time than I could take off of work, do a day, do 2 days, but have fun with it.
Have fun. I will say that the start of RAGBRAI is the busier time of RAGBRAI. So the first maybe 3 days, and then people tend to go home.
Yeah, a lot of people go home, especially the local Iowans. Like, they'll come out for a few days that they want to do, and then they'll go back home. People do have to take vacation days for it.
Yeah.
And then the last day is a Saturday every year, but a lot of people won't ride that ride because it's a shorter ride. So this year is like 40 miles, 45 miles into the last town, but we had significantly less people doing that ride because a lot of people will finish on Friday and then start their trip back home. You know, they have to be back to work on Monday, so they'll begin their trip back. So do it however you want, but we say just go for it. You don't need the fanciest gear.
No.
But do put some time into practicing and planning and packing. I'll link all my blog posts down below so you can check that out. But it's a blast.
It's a blast. And we recorded the whole thing, and we're uploading a video on our YouTube channel about our experience about RAGBRAI. So we're excited to share that.
Yeah, if you have questions about it, be sure to reach out. I hope to see some of y'all there next year.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
So, hey,
maybe that's a spoiler. Are we doing it next year?
I think we should do it next year.
We've already had some friends and stuff.
Maybe we should do it next year. Maybe we should get a bunch of people together.
Okay. If y'all are interested in riding with us in RAGBRAI 2025, let us know.
Yeah, if you want to, I think we should do it. I really do. So, hey, thank you, Safety Wing, for sponsoring this episode. Again, if you need travel insurance, especially if you're going to do RAGBRAI next year, go to the link down below. Check them out. They're well worth it.
Oh, we didn't mention this, but I think we need to mention this right now. If you're already traveling, you can still sign up for Safety Wing.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to do it ahead of time. It's not like insurance, like if you just buy it as you go.
Worth it.
Worth it. Okay, I think that's it.
All right, see you guys.
Thanks for listening to What No One Tells You with Chris and Sara. If you have a comment or question that you want answered on the air, be sure to send us a message to hello@chrisandsara.com, or you can call or text our phone number at 423-825-9572. Thanks for listening.